Maybe. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the AI Revolution Call. I am Cody Willard. It's Bryce Smith, Craig Delaune, John De Oliveira, Cody, Bryson Smith. I'm sorry, Cody, Bryson, and Craig work at 10,000 days. We run hedge fund stuff, invest in technology. John Dio is a legitimate, he actually contributes to society. He actually works in the field of AI and generates like applications and services that benefit mankind and generate economic activity. Unlike us who push buttons and try to allocate, I guess we allocate capital. And if we do it effectively, the world benefits. But it's a derivative, unlike truly working. I have to leave at 3:25 today to take my eldest daughter to the doctor. She's not feeling well, no big deal, but we're going to go get her checked up.
Mountain time.
We'll hit, what's that?
Mountain time.
Mountain time. Yeah, 3:25 mountain time, 25 minutes. Look, we're talking AI. Before I got on, I was just talking a little bit about how the Bitcoin miners of the world, there are, I don't know, probably 24 publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies, and they were grifty at best, fraudulent at worst, and probably going bankrupt as of 2 years ago. And those stocks were down 99% from their highs. They rallied over the last year and a half, 2 years, and some of them are up 10x, 20x. And I fought it for a while because they were grifty, somewhat fraudulent companies. But the fact of the matter is the AI revolution is so huge that, and the demand for energy is so huge. Those guys' business model was trying to secure the best, cheapest energy to mine Bitcoin, mostly at a loss still. But now they can turn their Bitcoin mining facilities and energy contracts into AI. And the hyperscalers are happy to buy basically an empty shell of an AI factory, and then they'll go throw in their servers. And then the energy connection into that data center has pre-existing contracts at good prices for AI, not good prices for mining Bitcoin, though. So anyway, it is interesting. One of the things I challenged the guys this morning at, and what I'm trying to get here to, among other things, is that we should be having deep thoughts about how these new applications and services and businesses that are going to be built on the AI platforms are going to change the world and create new economic activities, new business models. They'll disrupt some things like higher education. They'll change some things forever, make them more profitable. They'll create, I was just thinking, Amazon Web Services. In the year 1998 to the year 2005, Amazon was an internet company, and people thought of it as an internet company, but it was a retail internet company. And nobody thought through the fact, not even Jeff Bezos, it was one of his president of internet stuff, management, IT guy, who came up with the realization that they had all this excess compute and internet capacity for when it's not Christmas time or some big event. And they obviously, all internet companies overbuilt so that they could try to handle as much traffic as possible, which meant that 99% of the time, 99% of the capacity was sitting idle. And he figured out he could turn that on and provide web services to other companies, thus the name Amazon Web Services. And now 90%, 80% of the value of Amazon, the publicly traded company, is in Amazon Web Services. And that's the type of thing that when you just model out and you're like, hey, there's a billion people using AI and we can generate $20 a month in subscriptions, and that's $20 billion. And hey, at 3:25 we'll leave. Yes, that'd be great. Okay. Thank you. All right, I don't have to leave at 3:25. Where was I?
AWS value.
Yeah. Cloud.
that we're not, it's not linear. It is exponential. Even the number of businesses and business models and revenue streams that get generated out of the AI revolution, just like out of the internet revolution, are going to be bigger than we picture, and they're going to be different than we picture right now. And you've got to try, at least as technology trend investors and AI people, to think about what we're not picturing yet and try to extrapolate out different trends and different revenue streams and different modes of using the technology that is going to get here. And we're still the very archaic stage of AI and its use and what we do with it and what we can do with it. But there's, infinite number of business models to be built in the next 10 years on AI platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Lately, I don't feel like the growth is going to be smooth, though. I mean, they talk about disruptions, I feel like there's going to be more loss before gain, not necessarily in business value and things like that, but in jobs, that I feel like there's, from the programming side, that Dario Amodei, head of Anthropic, was talking about all the software engineering jobs going away. They corrected that, and they said they really mean the programming part of it, and that people will still have plenty to do with all the other aspects of software engineering.
That's where I'm always at, John. I feel like it's just almost like a cliche at this point to worry about the impact on jobs from AI, but I mean, clearly it is such an important thing in society and the economy and people's personal lives and livelihoods that of course we should talk about it. The amount of there's so much more work to be done. Every doctor that can save himself 30 minutes for record keeping a day, that's over a lifetime of service, that's 30 minutes of more patients a day times thousands, tens of thousands of days. And there are literally billions of people that don't have access to healthcare. There are billions of people that don't have access to teeth cleaning. There are billions of people that don't have access to blank. And all of that should at least be addressed over time with AI and robotics.
Yeah, I think it's worth getting the. Oh, sorry, Bryce.
Go ahead, Craig. Go.
Well, I was just saying, to your point, to the healthcare point, I think that's one of the biggest things. I mean, there is going to be, some job loss in the interim, but, on the back end of all this, I used to work in healthcare, and one of the biggest parts of rural care and Medicare is getting people adequate healthcare and access to different types of healthcare. Like pulmonologists, how much can you pay a pulmonologist to move to little of nowhere North Louisiana? So the idea of maybe having next to data centers or something, the next big thing they'll be building is not necessarily hospitals, but almost like big mega clinics. Every single type of specialty that you have is right there, done with robots or whatever. The future for medical access.
Or done with human doctors, but the person is standing in a holodeck, like from Star Trek, and the doctor is literally,
they have the tools,
literally, figuratively projected into this room with them, and is basically, for all intents and purposes, there. And the robots can do what they can do. And if you have to go to a major facility, you end up getting them there if the economic system will bear it.
Yeah. And I guess my point
that's it, Craig.
Yeah, my point with that is the abundance that comes, after the pain. I feel like it'll be worth it. It's easier for me to say, but I just feel like in the
end. And I guess the point that I'm getting at is that whether it's construction workers or doctors or nurses or programmers, there is more work to be done. If you're a programmer who loses their job, you're telling me you don't have a single business idea that you can build with AI apps and your talents now? Like, go be creative. Like, the entrepreneurial
that's a big ask. I mean, some people are creative, and some.
Right. And I'm not saying everybody needs to be, but there are millions of people who are creative who will now be unleashed because they can create their own businesses with the lower barrier of entry and less capital because they can use AI tools.
One of the things I think is going to change a lot, though, is that AI and robotics is so deflationary that it's going to make things affordable for people that previously couldn't afford them. And so, like, you're going to have services and goods that were previously reserved to the wealthy, and the cost starts to go down. And demand is not going to be a linear expansion with the cost decline, right? So if you lower the cost of air travel by 50%, you're going to get 3 times as much air travel or something, right? As an example. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think as AI starts to work down the cost curve, the demand just explodes. And therefore, you're going to have a lot of employment created in meeting the additional volume at lower prices.
Do we see any of that yet? Or is it too soon?
I think the history of the Industrial Revolution is sort of.
No, but he's saying here in the AI revolution, do you have any examples presently?
Has anything
John,
kicked in yet?
I think if it's the dial-up internet phase, there were web developers in high demand in the year 2000, 1999. And at this moment, if you have AI skills at all, you're in high demand. But eventually there were Amazon warehouses. Eventually there were trucking jobs delivering goods as they exponentially expanded delivery services. And, I don't mean to make it sound like it's going to be easy and that there won't be political pressures to all of this and there won't be partisan nonsense arguing that it's the other party's fault the whole time and people will be mad at the other party if they're in that party and all that nonsense. Like, yes, of course. And there will be disruptions and there will be job losses, like professors. Again, I was just talking about higher education. Like, there could be a secular change, a generational change going on in higher education that's being started right now, but it's not even having any impact. But somewhere over the next 3 to 5 years, maybe, and somewhere over the next 10 to 20 years, absolutely. But hopefully people won't be going into professorship jobs right as that secular train is taken off from the station. Here's a thought. I've spent the last 25 years being a revolution investor, trying to invest in the most impactful technological revolutions that change society and economies forever, create trillion-dollar economies. We right now are focused on 3 revolutions. Elon Musk of SpaceX and Tesla fame, of political infamy, was in an interview last weekend, and he said, other than Tesla as an investment, he doesn't have a portfolio, but if he did, he'd say Tesla, NVIDIA, and Google. Those happen to be our 3 biggest positions for many years, frankly. Google, I guess for the last 8 months, we made it one of our biggest positions, but it's been a big position and a core position. I've owned it personally since the day it came public. The other point he said were there are 3 revolutions you need to be invested in right now. Now, there are 3 revolutions that we have been literally pounding the table on. Bryce, he said we should invest in the
AI revolution.
Craig, he said we should invest in the
robotics revolution.
And John, what is my other revolution I always talk about? Space.
But the first 2 sounded like the same one, but But space, yeah. Mhm.
So anyway, I just wanted to, that's my victory lap on that topic. I'm the richest man, most successful business person in the history of the planet, says that the approach that we're taking is probably the best approach for investors. I agree with him.
He could have just said it with the shorthand of, just invest the way Cody does.
I mean,
That's what he was really
you
saying.
also say that about Tesla going to have a $30 trillion valuation someday, because Bryce's model literally put that together. We published a book about it, and then 6 months later, Kathy Wood starts talking about it, and then a month later, Elon starts talking about it.
I mean, the difference between you and Elon is he's saying it now, and you said it 10 years ago.
That's the only difference between me and Elon. No, but I did just think it was funny. And, we're on here doing the AI Revolution call weekly, and we obviously always end up talking about robotics and space too, because, John, you were making a joke that AI and robotics are almost the same revolution. But one of the things we talk about a lot when we're out giving our investor presentations is that the internet, the electricity revolution beget the internet revolution, beget the smartphone revolution, beget the AI revolution, which begets the robotics revolution, which will beget the space revolution. AI enables robotics, and robotics actually will go to the moon and Mars before people do, and help build, habitat for humans.
And that's what I was talking about a long time ago. Like everybody kept talking about going to Mars, and I was like, they're not listening to me. They need to send the robots to Mars first. And they knew that, I guess, but or else they finally heard me. So
yeah, no. Do you guys remember when they rolled out the Optimus, and it was a human being dressed in a robot outfit, and it was
dancing
It
around?
was truly a PR disaster. It was an investor relations disaster. Like, the stock was down the next day, and I was already it was my biggest position. It's been my biggest position in the hedge fund for 7 years, and I was like, oh man, I don't even want to own it tomorrow.
It was kind of the equivalent of throwing the ball. It was like throwing the ball at the window.
That one I actually got a kick out of, and I've always thought he did it on purpose as a PR stunt, because we would talk about it forever.
No, I don't know if that was on purpose.
Yeah, maybe not.
No. But
John, we haven't done the call in a few weeks. Like, what are your what do you think the most important AI developments over the last 3 weeks have been?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Google, because they kind of had a couple of very good weeks, and or even in 1 week, they had a couple of very good things happen. They had, Gemini, was it 3.1?
3.0.
Oh, 3.0. Gemini 3.0. But, I think even bigger is I hate the name, but the Nano Banana thing. The Nano Banana Pro, which they come up with these names because they have they go on that website where things compete before they're revealed about what they are, and they're given like a code name. So it's like one of those type names. But the breakthrough here in generating graphics, a couple things. One is doing it in combination with Gemini, to where it's not just kind of pushing out whatever it can, and then, it's not quite what I meant, and so forth, but it's kind of in combination with the language model, which is, controlling the objects mentioned. So you can do stuff like, say, here's a dozen different individual things, this dress and this picture and this whatever, and like make one image that contains all of these things. And it's put together as the stuff is like not just, sitting separately in the image. They like make up a single picture with the stuff brought together. Amazing. And just showing the control that the things have now. And other things that it can now be like perfect with spelling and numbers and words and things, so that you can basically ask it to do anything, especially things like this, a big infographic. You can, like, with one sentence describe, tell me about Warren Buffett's such and such that happened over time and blah, blah, and make it a treasure map or a timeline or whatever. and it'll produce something like this. This is unbelievable.
Yeah,
Really is. Knowing how bad it was 6 months ago when you would ask it to do something and it even just put the word yes at the top and it would look like it was Russian acrylic or something, and you were always like, why can't it spell? And to now see this document produced at that quality with those full sentences, I unless you've been doing it, maybe it's not as mind-blowing as it should be, but I'm telling you people, that's mind-blowing.
Well,
Rich visual, that you want to convey an idea and you want to make a visual around it, or you do things like, I remember like when Sora first came out, I talked to my brother who's a Hollywood producer, and I said, Hollywood's gone in 10 years. And now I see, 2 years later, maybe a little less, that it definitely we're on path to that, that you can make a beginning image and ending image with the same character and say, fill in between and storyboard the whole thing and start to really make things, movie-like out of it. It's crazy.
And this is, go ahead, Craig.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say I made these on exactly what you're talking about on Nano, and it was like I asked it to first Gemini create a whole outline of the investment philosophy, the wins, the losses, the world views of some of the greatest investment minds, like Stanley Druckenmiller and Warren Buffett, and it really had these long outlines of like everything, their influences, everything. And I really wanted to see how complex it could get. And it blew me away with not only how complex it got, but I mean, that looks like Stanley. Like the other one looks like Warren. And it's visually, the fidelity is incredible. And
like those are quality products that you could literally print those out and give them out at a brokerage firm to your clients. And they would be like, oh, this is, like I'd sit on a subway looking at that for hours. Hopefully not too long on a subway, but
what was interesting, I was working on Waymo recently, John, and their CEO gave a talk 3 months ago, and he was talking about how it's using the Gemini model that just made that, but in reverse, because you have all these cameras taking images on a car. You put Gemini into the car, and it can help the language model, or the vision language model can help interpret the scenes that are happening in real time, instead of just making images. It can also understand the image, and I never thought about that, but I mean, you can take any image and put it in Gemini and be like, yeah, I can see a stop sign. You can say, hey, there's a person, whatever, put that in the car and going to help it decide and reason and inference in real time.
That's actually, it's fascinating because, you think large language models, and we've talked on these episodes before about the idea of how the large language model is like triangulating the next most likely word in order to make sentences, in order to make paragraphs, in order to make reports. But it's written words and it's text-based. And this is where, like, the fact that it can also then take image and use processing of large language thought. And this is where even like the human mind is magical, because we do that, right? Like we think in words, but we don't think in words, and you dream, but not in words, but sometimes maybe, and words exist, but reality would exist even without words, and visualizations of things that you don't even have names for are still there. And the mind does it all and sort of muddles through and, helps you from not tripping on the crack in the sidewalk and have a conversation as you're doing it.
Yeah, just the idea that you can get it. I mean, I've done this with ChatGPT before. I think everybody has. Like, one time my sister needed her car worked on, so I got under there. I was in a really uncomfortable spot trying to get my phone to take a picture of this part, and then he could walk me into how to take it off and do it. But, Gemini, just its ability to really understand and, take all of the information that it can process about what it's looking at, the model of a vehicle, or even like just how to change something on your toilet, look at it, walk you through it 100%. And there's YouTube videos, YouTube channels just built on that idea of just taking something and just helping you walk through it. And it's just going to get easier for people as they get smarter over time.
Not to take away from Google, because I thought they had an amazing week and did great and everything, but just when Gemini 3 came out, everyone was like, this thing just leapfrogged everything. And then 2 days later, Anthropic Opus was ahead of Gemini on the programming rankings. So Gemini's still great, across the board for other things, but Anthropic retained its top position as the programming model.
Do you think it would have been, I mean, I feel like it would have been detrimental for them if they really couldn't beat in the coding department, because that's their whole gig, right? Like that's their...
Yeah, well, there's more than just kind of the code itself. There's the whole kind of ecosystem around it, with Claude Code being the accepted, thing being used by developers and everything. But yeah, they need to stay near the top for sure. It is where they aim, but it's just that Gemini did take that #1 position, and it did show, we're ahead of open source China, which was catching up, and it looked like, oh, can we even stay ahead? And well, we're ahead again. And from the interview with Ilya this week, which was really good. I don't know if you saw him being interviewed by Dwarkesh, he kind of conceded that the large language models and the transformer kind of architecture is not by itself going to bring about AGI. It doesn't matter. It is going to keep advancing. It is going to keep getting, more powerful and making more use cases happen and so forth. And maybe AGI is less, relevant, but for it to come about, we're going to have to see some other kinds of advances as well, is what he was agreeing, I think.
Do you not think that we'll get them?
Those advances, I do think we'll get them. Yeah.
I mean, that's, again, it's like we can look at what large language models are now, and I'm sure there's got to be parallels to the internet again, where it was like you looked at a stagnant website that had some mostly text and some bad JPEGs on it, and you thought that would be the internet. And eventually people had, created HTML5, which enables you to play video games in 4K in real time with low latency on a website in a browser.
And React, all the different things that came along for that front end stuff. Yeah, I think we will. And I think we're not in the large language models and so forth, they suck a lot of the oxygen out, because a lot of time gets spent on those different hyperscalers, competing with each other over that specific thing. But there's enough left over of people around the edges trying all new kinds of things, and I think very interesting. And some of the new things, maybe it's sitting in a white paper or a research paper right now, the thing that's going to break through.
And I always, whenever I see ratings of the various LLMs and the large language models and the chat bots, that agents, etc., that you can use right now, I always it literally harkens back to 1998 and reading reviews of search engines. And you're like, Alta Vista is a little bit better if you're looking for music, but if you're trying to find research, you should probably use Excite, whatever the examples are. And it was none of it really mattered 5 years later when Google came along and trounced it all with its better algorithms and approach to the web itself. And those analogies are out there constantly. And I think it's important for us to think them through, and just how transcendent AI can become, the business models can become in AI. The models are I was watching Star Wars the other day, Empire Strikes Back. Connecting with Bluetooth speakers, wanted to hear science fiction movie. that's probably my go-to Star Wars science fiction movie. So I go to Empire Strikes Back and I turn it on and I'm watching and I'm thinking about, they're like, the thought I had was all of the different lightsabers, tools, space travel, hyperspace. I never thought as a kid about the implications, the economic implications of all of it, and like rules about technology and lock-in costs, and how the Empire would get locked into like their own version of like even military industrial complex contractors, and then like the rebels can use new technologies and they could adapt faster, but also just even like space travel and economics, or in Star Trek when you are watching and you're thinking about like these guys are basically like peace military guys on Enterprise out there exploring new worlds, and it's being financed by like prosperity somewhere, and that prosperity is being created by guys who are making the starship and like designing new phasers and better ways of teleporting and it is interesting how the point I guess I'm getting at is you can almost, guys, when I talk about like we need to think about the new applications and services that AI enables, a lot of it's actually already on TV and the movies and future dystopian things, but you take the good thing out of the dystopia. But what they never address is the economics behind it all. Like that's never in the movies. That doesn't make good movies. You need drama and action for good movies. You don't need like, you guys do realize that since everybody uses Land Cruisers, there is no tire business. There is no Goodyear in Tatooine.
Well, the Jawas use big land things, so they have, I can't remember the name of it, but there's probably like a rubber plant somewhere or something.
I don't know.
Unless it's metal, it might be metal
entirely. But the point being, it is fascinating that maybe that's part of what I'm getting at is when you're watching a science fiction movie to actually picture the society and economy in which Star Trek 2250 exists, and what that actually meant for them to get to the point where it was economic to have a crew of hundreds of people exploring stuff with tax dollars.
So there's two parts I was thinking of there. One is that even if we did some reason, whatever, stop where we are with AI development, you got what you're going to get. It's not going to go any further, whatever. We've talked about before that there's enough there for us to kind of develop the economy based on what we've just been given there for the next 40, 50 years. It's like, it's a ton of potential in what's already there. So the fact that we keep gonna kind of pushing along.
Let's get some low-hanging fruit. In that example, like literally what's already there is the ability for your computer to shop for you based on your past buying habits, Christmas time. The ability for your computer to generate an 8-second clip of science fiction idea that you might have. Like the ability for your computer to see your browser and tell you what you're looking at and research more about that topic for you. What else, John?
Well, I mean, I put on the side of technology inertia everything that's about to happen with robotics, because, we kind of already have the technology we need. It takes time to bring together the hardware and the software and to kind of train it up and so forth. But it's not, there'll be new inventions and developments and things, but even without them, the robotics can happen. So I put that on that side of it and say, we've got the technology inertia for that already. And there's a lot of things then you can put with, the technology inertia that affect our physical world kind of being developed and processed faster and better than it ever was. All of the medical, the ability for medical discoveries, it's not about whether we made this or that discovery. It's that, do we have already the power to continue to make those discoveries now. You know, the material science, you know, we now already have the ability to isolate one of 500,000 different materials that with exact properties, you know, that can be used for something.
John, it's a really good point, and to frame just how amazing what we already are experiencing is, and how nascent it still is, because it's not being used in corporate America extensively. The tools themselves are still just being developed and getting refined and being tested out with a few employees and not an entire company with 20,000 people working there. But the tools that exist already are amazing and will get better, and people will develop ever more ways of utilizing what's already existing, and they're only going to get better.
Bryce, you're smiling.
Yeah,
like
Bryce has got something on his mind.
Like, what is it, Bryce?
No, it was nothing. It was a random tweet that popped up. So
before that, when I started talking about this thing about the inertia of it, you were, I think you seemed like you were in agreement.
Yeah, I think like it's like being on the exponential curve, right? That we can't ever comprehend. It's like we assume, like I guess people forget like that what's already happened is sort of a miracle, and then like the miracle that like the way things are right now, just the way things are going to be going forward. And the actual state of things is that we are like in a state of change currently, and people seem to forget that like really quickly, you know. And like even when you're looking from investment perspective and you're trying to build a model of like, oh, how does this all work, and you, like Cody was talking this morning about like trying to model the economic impact of vehicles using like how horses worked, it just doesn't work, right? It doesn't compute. And I feel like that's what people are trying to do right now with AI in a lot of ways, because a lot of it doesn't fit within sort of the paradigm we've been in.
Yeah, it's sort of like right now people are like, this takes it to an extreme, but it's like people are like looking at how people use Sears Roebuck catalogs, and they're like, this is what that means for ChatGPT and shopping. You know, I'm not really sure that it's relevant. I mean, it was amazing that you could send a catalog of items that people could buy around the country, and then they would order it from you and you would ship it to them. That was logistically revolutionary for its time. And you know what, as we were talking today, I just made a note and it had an epiphany about it. And Bryce, I wasn't going to bring it up, but what your point underscores the importance of it. And it is, you guys know what Metcalfe's law is? I'm sure most people watching this don't, but Metcalfe's law is that the value of a network goes up by the square of the number of users on it. It's actually it's n minus one, but you get the point. So if you have a network with two people, you can have two people talking, but if you have three people, now you have this connection, you have this connection, you have this connection, and you get an infinite number of connections. By the time you have 10 connections, you've got a bunch of connections going on. And when you get to 1,000 connections, you add one more connection, that's 1,000 more connections. I mean, I'm messing up the math, it's actually exponential. But the point being, it gets ever more valuable exponentially, and you just have to add one more thing to the network for it to go up yet another huge number every time. And that's exactly what like AI enables with applications and services and business models. Instant delivery of your app, business, service, whatever it is, to billions of people who can use it very easily and don't have to like install some software and new app on their phone and maybe a connector to get it to work. Metcalfe's law. Thank you, Bryce.
So I thought the diagram was helpful to see how it compounds exponentially.
So there's a other angle on this, which is sort of an inside out view. You run a business, and what makes up, so I always think in terms of small businesses, but what makes up what you're doing to get from idea to market, and all of the workflows that happen, all of the value chains and all the value add that's going on in your business to turn that idea into something, to get the supply chains, to get the things built, to get plans happening and so forth. And with AI, more and more and more of those kind of use cases within it can be done by like agents, can be done by AI. Whether it's like we see the example here with this new Google new version of their graphics product, where I don't need a graphic designer, unfortunately, to the graphic designer. But I mean, literally, I can get from the idea in my head to a beautiful finished product, whether it is an advertisement, whether it is packaging on something, whether it's the getting a view of what a product or clothing line will look like and things like this. It's like all of it can happen. Almost anything visual. So, okay, got that end of it covered. We already had the kind of end of reaching into spreadsheets and doing planning with those and so forth. So more and more, you can see why there's this argument that we're going to have our first, $1 billion kind of company. Our first unicorn that has a single employee is going to happen sometime in the next, 10 years or whatever. But it can happen.
Yeah.
John, I've got a question for you that I've been thinking about a little bit lately with robotics and stuff. And one of the things is like, you're not context awareness. Dang it, the term just escaped me. Object permanence, that concept that humans like sort of innately do. I don't even, it's a miracle that our minds can like remember. Like I have a vague recollection of like what the Oklahoma City skyline looks like, even though I haven't been to Oklahoma City in a decade or something. You know what I mean? Like it would, if something was radically different, I would know that like, that's not how it used to look. Right. And I can tell you like in my parents' house, what's in the top drawer of my mom's desk on the left-hand side. You know what I mean? Like where she keeps the pins and things. For a robot, it can't possibly store every video, all it's ever is seen in memory, and then fetch from memory like all of that. Can it? I mean, that seems like an impossible amount of video data.
No, I mean, break it down. How much does 24 hours of video take when it's compressed? And now I don't need like 30 frames per second. I need 1 frame per second or something. It's like it's not that much.
So you don't think that's an issue? Like,
no, I don't think it's
where things are.
The bigger issue is how you pull the stuff, how you retrieve it.
Yeah, it has access to the cloud, and it'll have super fast bandwidth, low latency bandwidth to the cloud anyway. So does it even need it internal? Like it'll know everything. It could have,
whether it's internal or not. I think it's more about like
all of that video to the cloud.
I don't know. I think it's more about retrieving. And what's the most compressed form something can take? And this is something we worked on all the way back when I was at Sicor, and it's now a possibility, and that is having that infographic that Craig did be described in a single sentence, because it doesn't matter that it was, slightly fading off on this edge like this with a point of this and the light coming this way. No, or if you said, a purple unicorn running through a meadow with woods in the back and snow on the mountain behind it or whatever. It's like you can, in a sentence, that's your compression for something much, much more detailed. You peel out what matters and then you store it that way. So you don't even need.
How does the AI know what matters?
It already has examples of doing that. So,
So, like, let me ask a more specific question. Like Google, when they demoed their Google Glass last summer or whenever that was, and it's not really, it was just a highlight video, basically.
yeah,
Like, if you have the glasses on and they're like, hey, where did I leave my keys? And as long as I've had the glasses on all days, it's like, oh, you left the keys, they're on your desk, straight, right behind you, or whatever.
yeah.
Like, you think, like, how does the AI know that my keys matter, and like the location of something else that I happen to look at during the day doesn't matter, or does that need to be
there's your keys move around, so there has to be information about them being here, there, the other. That book on your shelf over there, knowing about it once is good enough until it ends up moving. And then so storing the fact that it's there once and having kind of layered information where I go all the way down to the layer of where's the last time it moved, and that's the only thing I actually have to know about it, is down there. But yeah,
so
how they actually
I guess just to sum it up, you don't think the object permanence challenge is that big of a challenge?
I think that the part of the challenge has to do with retrieval, and you can store everything, but getting at the fact that like it is sort of the thing you said about like what's novel that you're gonna go get at. I do worry about memory related things, but I'm getting kind of constantly surprised at how good things can be. Like the agent system I'm working on, every agent now stores in its own little mini file system on virtual disk all the files that it's working with. So 6 months ago, that was in memory and taking up tokens, and was it going to be a piece of the context and so forth. And now it's off this separate thing, and it's like it's this own little operating system where it goes and pulls in what it needs and has two separate files, one that has all the stuff like where the the glasses are and everything, and the other that's more like a table of contents onto that, like here's the part that matters, go grab out this part kind of thing. So there's a lot going on in that area.
John, how big a difference, order of magnitude or several orders of magnitude fewer tokens that it requires to do what you're describing with your agent, since the memory is now local?
Well, that plus another memory kind of advancement make it that it's 10x, because the kind of thing that Claude is doing, if I have a context window that's whether it's 200K tokens or 1 million tokens, I kind of spin off another agent to go do something. It gets its whole new set for it, so it starts over. So every time you go and have multiple agents involved, you've got a clean slate. And then there's also this ability for it to go, I'm running out. Let me compress what I've done so far by summarizing what work has been occurring and keep just what matters, and get from 1 million down to 50,000 and go like it never looks like anything happened to the user, and it just keeps going and going. So instead of it being like, sorry, you ran out, it says, you don't even think about it anymore. You just keep going.
The point of the story is that like the exponential acceleration of the technology is happening parallel in its efficiency and its ability to have exponential more memory also. And the number of tokens that you can run per unit of energy is getting 10x'd every year with better chips from NVIDIA and Google. And the whole thing is feeding upon itself, and you're getting like, orders of magnitude of better token economics, which enables ever more application services and business models.
Agree. And one more thing to throw on there is what Google just did with their file system. I don't know if it's Google Drive or what, but you throw stuff in and it's sort of like automatic RAG, automatic retrieval augmented generation. So instead of worrying about vectors and embedding spaces and things like this, it's just happening automatically. Go grow your file system, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's going to go find what it needs and pull the right stuff in. So that's another element. And it's all the same thing you're saying. It's sort of multiplying on itself in different dimensions at the same time.
In this context, it makes the DeepSeek moment from a year ago or whenever it was seem silly in retrospect. And this is where our reaction at the time, even on these AI calls and in the funds, was that it was like a non-event because you wanted 10x more efficiency per token for better AI applications and services. And even to this moment, and it's clearly happening on several layers of the stack in the AI platform itself, that you want all of these like constant exponential improvements in the unit economics so that ever better applications can run economically.
And as we said, as many before, it seems to be the case that as many tokens as OpenAI, as Google, as Anthropic, as many as they can come up with, they can sell. They're not limited on that.
There's got to be a fun way of mocking the old communist adage of
to each according to his needs.
Yeah, but but the way it actually ends up working is how it's like, to each according to the amount of time they have is how much work they get. Like, it's always the one who works the hardest gets the most work. Mm-hmm. And that's, I don't know, there's got to be some, I don't know.
Right.
Got to be a way to make fun of communism in all of this. That's all I was getting at.
Yeah. So, I guess the summary of all of this kind of multiplying and the productivity in these different directions and everything is things are looking up.
Yeah, it's amazing, all of the features that come out. It's like, I don't know how many times we've said this on this podcast, but the AI, like every week, seems like there's something that blows our mind. And in many other revolutions, that's not the case, or supposed revolutions, that's definitely not the case. Crypto.
And we would be remiss without addressing the Michael Burry, Jim Chanos, CapEx of the hyperscalers and the neo scalers who are building all of these NVIDIA clusters, and how the depreciation schedules are making it look like earnings are better than they are, and that the use of these, let's not call use, because they don't argue that they're still being used 6 years after they were deployed. They're arguing that they're profitable at that point. Bryce, would you just frame it and address this topic? You wrote a fantastic article for Trade.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did argue at one time that those things were worthless after a couple years. And then NVIDIA and Google and everybody was like, no, we use them all the time. And they're like, well, maybe they're getting used for 6 years, but they're not economic. And so it's like, okay, so Google is intentionally wasting money.
Like, what is that? What, that doesn't, Google's going to use something that actually doesn't, no.
There's some costs,
So anyways, but what's interesting, I think, is that there is the debate is this, that these very expensive pieces of hardware are not going to produce income for very long. They will rapidly depreciate as new generations of hardware come out, which NVIDIA is going to release new generations every single year. That's the plan. And that Blackwell is like 15 times more power efficient on a token, tokens per wattage.
NVIDIA's latest chip in the marketplace, Blackwell.
Yeah. It's like somewhere like 15 times more power efficient than the Hopper was, which is the last generation. And what was interesting is when I was dug in on this topic is that the way I see it is that the compute itself is sort of fungible. And there is difference in efficiencies, but you can, because of the CUDA software system and the upgrades that come with that, you can run as an engineer, as a software person building AI, your AI could be running across an A100, H100s, and different architectures of NVIDIA compute because the CUDA is a layer of abstraction that sort of makes it all fungible to you as the developer. Now, as from a power and efficiency perspective, those things are less power efficient. But as long as the demand, it's a sunk cost. So as long as the price, the marginal revenue coming in from making those tokens on old hardware exceeds the marginal cost, which is fairly nominal, it's just the electricity cooling cost, and the revenue still multiples of that, then they're going to keep running those old chips. And the real question is only if the demand were to flatline, or that eventually enough supply came on, then you wouldn't use the less efficient method of producing, meeting that demand. But that's not the case. It seems like the demand for tokens is actually growing probably exponentially at this point.
What's really interesting about that is that's actually an inherent side effect, I guess maybe even an inherent feature of it being parallel processing and not vertical processing. Right. The other, is that it? Vertical processing?
Well,
what do you call the CPU?
No,
linear? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
The CPU runs one at a time, and those GPUs run all in parallel. And since they run all in parallel, if you create a layer of software on top of the stack, then it's like you called it fungible. That's what made me picture it. It literally is like in a sponge, and it's just moving from one side or the other.
Scaling up versus scaling out.
Yeah.
So why is it that if demand goes up, that the price doesn't go up to take advantage of the fact that there's all these people wanting, like these new models come out and they keep dropping their, their per million, whatever, prices per million tokens sent, received, and it's like $15 this way and $100 that way. And but it's down from what it was. Every time it's down from what it was, or it's the same, but there's so much greater processing on the thing that it's effectively down.
Because the cost per million tokens is going down from the producer side. I mean, that's like the demand. So like the amount of tokens that a Blackwell can produce is multiples of the Hopper, like on tokens per second. And so they can crank out. It's because the hardware is getting fundamentally more efficient. They can sell the tokens at a cheaper price, and
then also though, from a business strategy standpoint, this is the gold rush, like your claim part of the cycle. And so they're willing to run AI at a loss as long as they can fund it with either cash flows or venture capital money in the case of like Anthropic or Perplexity or something.
It's a land grab for customers.
It's a land grab. Get people locked in on your AI now, and they'll be there in 10 years, and you'll be charging, if your ARPU right now is $20 a month for some customers and $0 for other, in 10 years, you're planning that it'll be, generating, like Bryce was talking this morning on our call, $30 a month in ad revenue on your retail customers that you lock in today, and you're generating $100,000s of dollars a month on your enterprise customers that you're locking in.
And there is some lock-in. I mean, because there are switching costs. It's not like, oh, every day I'm going to go, switch this around. It's like there's work to be done. If I want to go switch out a model, I can do it. I can stick another model behind.
Right, you can. But there's work to be done. There's potential glitches. There's just, it's not costless. It is a cost. And so that's it. I mean, that is so much, as long as you can spend them, as long as you can spend the money right now to lock in customers, you're going to do it.
I had a picture of, this idea every time you come out with a new model and it's a new, faster, whatever, it's kind of like Spider-Man grabbing the next, or Tarzan grabbing the next vine. It's like now you swing on that one until you get onto the next one, and then you swing on that one. It's like as long as you keep that going, because you got to get that next one there before people are like, it's taking you too long. I'm ready to switch. It's like,
what's interesting, John, I think on that too, is like I had this thought the other day where I think I was like, okay, tokens are sort of a commodity, whether you like your Anthropic tokens or your Google tokens or XAI tokens, whatever. But then I was like, okay, so you want more token? Like there's like a lot of things are scaling at once, which is driving token demand. Number one, there's more user adoption, right? That's going up all the time. Number two, there's more use cases, right? You can use tokens in a chat bot. You can use it to make images. You can use it to make an app. So that keeps expanding. The third thing is that unlike most commodity, any other commodity, the quality of a token gets better over time. The tokens we produce today are not the same tokens that we produced last year, right? Oil, on the other hand, is the same as it was when we produced it 100 years ago. And so that's the part of scaling that like all the intelligence,
hold on.
quality of the intelligence itself gets better.
Okay, there. I think that's better because I'm not sure. Maybe it is true, but it seemed confusing to me that you were saying the token itself is better. Is it better, or what it can do is better? There's more.
Yeah. I mean, it's the predicted next word, the predicted next token is objectively better with each model.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So the tokens themselves, it's a semantics at this point.
But well, I mean, not per token,
themselves are doing like they do more every day.
Yeah. If you think of it as like 100 tokens or 500 tokens or whatever, and say when that chunk of tokens comes back and it used to be stupid and now it's brilliant. Those tokens are worth more, you know.
Exactly. The bucket of tokens is
So I mean, and that's I think there's Bryce, we need to write this article up about just sort of how tokens are the pure commodity. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, here's another point we should make, that the more tokens in the cluster, the more valuable each token is. They actually get more valuable exponentially themselves because what they're creating feeds off of the other tokens' abilities to do other stuff too.
I'm not following that because there's like two kinds of, I mean, we talk about tokens as in the stuff I send in and out as the context for what I'm asking for something, or am I talking about it more like, you know, the size of the model and what it, you know, handled in building the thing?
No, in this case, I'm talking about the actual usage of the tokens, the inference usage of the token compute itself. The tokens themselves are more valuable exponentially because there are other tokens doing brilliant stuff in the system with them.
Well, if I said that, I would go say that these advancements in RAG or in Google, what Google did with that, or in memory and so forth, make it so that a company can build up these assets over time, and that bigger chunk of assets, that every next thing that comes along isn't just happening in a vacuum, it's happening against that whole set. And so that's why there's so much value in it kind of growing as a thing that's being referenced every time, you know. So in that sense, it's like the Metcalf thing.
Yeah. I just think there's something. Maybe I'm going to have to think on it and try to verbalize it better. But it seems to me there's some economic difference in tokens versus oil in this analogy, because the oil just does one thing, and it doesn't matter how much of it you have. It's a quantifiable amount of energy it creates. And tokens, like the more tokens, the more the technology creates somehow. I'm going to have to work on my.
Well, yeah, if you think about back when context was only, like, these things first came out, and the context was like 1,000 tokens. That's all it could handle being even involved in the question and the answer and kind of thing. And that 1,000 goes up to 1,000,000, and now it can, you know, go and interpret a video and tell you about something that happened at some point within it. So it's like more tokens being involved matters.
Yeah.
Another way.
Sorry, Bryce, but maybe the tokens are like the city being built on top of the energy grid, right? Like They're the actual build, like the build. I don't know. I'll have to figure this out. What were you say about Bryce?
I'm not sure this is what you're saying, but one of the ways I think about it too is like I've analogized this to steel before. Like with steel, steel is this commodity you can build a building out of, but you can also build a tractor out of steel, and then the tractor enables you to build bigger buildings and better buildings and building cities at scale, and which are also made out of steel. And tokens are both. Tokens are both the tool, and they're also like the end product, right? Build the app, and then the app itself can have AI features within it, which produces tokens, which you want.
No, that's good.
Cody, last word.
We're going to do a whole show about this next week, but here's the last word that over the last 25 years, half of all the wealth that has ever existed was created. In the last 25 years, we doubled the amount of wealth that was created in the first 6,000 years of civilization. And we're about to do that again off this new base.
We did the same with information. Coincidence or no?
Methinks not. Could be a booger, but it's Bryce. Next question.
Final thoughts?
Final words.
I think I just said some of this morning, but I just think it's so early, even for AI revolution. Like I've told people even this weekend, like Thanksgiving and stuff, I was like, yeah, it's probably second inning or something of AI. And I take that back. Like the more I've thought about it, I'm like, man, it's still first inning of the AI. There's like, we're just barely scratching the surface, and especially in terms of monetization. Yeah, monetizing AI, really barely scratching the surface of that, And so I told Cody, and then this morning is like 95% of chat users or ChatGPT users are free, and everyone's worried about OpenAI's economics. I'm like, they haven't even monetized 95% of their 800 million users. It's insane.
No. And
yeah, it's like when the Facebook, had all these users and didn't know what it was yet, and wasn't really didn't monetize it. You just had a .edu, and everybody, it was spreading like wildfire. But that was definitely the first inning of Facebook, if I could ever imagine, so.
Is that your last word, Craig?
No. This cool thing I read today, I just thought it was super interesting. So Aristotle's apparently an AI system by Harmonic, and it solved this 30-year-old math problem by just brainstorming for 6 hours and then proving it in a minute. And I don't know, that really kind of got to me, because the stuff, mathematical proofing and things that you can do in scientific research, as computing gets more powerful and more quick, the amount of experiments, the amount of things that you can run, iterations, is just going to be exponentially faster for like the space revolution. Will this work? Especially when you have an intergalactic or space economy, even if, just in our lifetime, having things up, in orbit where we start to get clutter, we get more data centers up there, we get, just being able to process all this information, medical, all of the different things that we can do with, gene therapy and stuff, how many times we can iterate faster. That was just really interesting to me, that we're kind of at that breakthrough. We've seen that breakthrough this early. So that's something to kind of look forward to as we, start to hopefully get into the second inning sometime very soon.
Amen. I think we should just cut it off there, and John doesn't get last words. I'm just kidding, Johnny boy. What do you got? What's the last words?
I think there's going to be a tremendous need for breaking through the friction of how to put all this AI to use. There's a small number of people kind of with awareness of what it can do. There are people just on chat, asking questions, whatever. But for all of the things that can be happening in business and research, everything, there's got to be a lot more done to help kind of bridge that gap and like be the grease that is grease the skids to get this stuff really put to use. Not sure how yet, but and it's not.
Jen, I think the promise of AI is that it gets to a point where it's just so easy to use, we don't even think about it.
I don't think it's going to do it all by itself. I think that it's possible to go talk to it and so forth, but it's lacking at this point kind of the spark to go, here, let me help you get there and whatever. And
hey Siri, can you help me with anything ever?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Freaking knew it, man. I knew it. That's a perfect way to end. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
all right. See you later, guys.
Thanks, John.
Peace.